Hey you guys, it's your girl Natural. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here. Please, please, please hit that subscribe button. You know the drill. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. It's that way that we can just actually come here. You can find me, I can find you. I want you to be here. I want you to be present here with me because you are beautiful. So please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Join our little community. I have to talk about this crab in a bucket mentality amongst women, you know. And there's I talk about everything that comes to my mind on this channel. That could be politics, it could be pop culture, it could be motivation, it could be news. I'm so tired of seeing women, especially women of color and black people, be silenced, in this day and age. It is sickening, and I just have decided I'm not gonna take it anymore. I'm not gonna deal with it anymore. I'm not gonna have anyone telling me you need to only talk about this. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's just it comes from a long history of people, certain people policing other groups. And I'm just like, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Why do I talk about that? It's because a lot of people come on my channel on the more touchy subjects where I talk about my ancestral background. Me, I mean, even though I live in Europe, me as a black American woman who comes from generations of slaves. Like, that's just what it is. That's the real. And, people essentially trying to tell people who look like me what to do, when to do, where to do it, and just inherently say you're not good enough. That right there, even if you deny it, that is a part of the American ethos. And that makes people come on to videos where I talk about an anti-black racism that is very, very specific in this day and age, that comes from slavery, that comes from colonization. I have people that automatically come into those videos. They don't look at any other videos where I talk about anything else, just those videos, and they are nasty in the comments. They downvote it, but it's like whatevs, I can't do nothing about that, honey. But the thing is, for instance, I did a video where I talked about how black women are the most targeted group on social media. That's not an opinion, it's literally fact. They are the most targeted with hate speech, threats, even death threats. Look at the Georgia case with Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, how, this fake elector scheme, and people are sending them threats. People they don't really want to understand that this is rooted and it came from a certain place, okay? But for instance, when I go and I talk about issues that concern all women, for example, when I talk about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Now I laugh because my husband, who is a white man, and even though he is a right man on the left, pretty much for the most part, I feel like we're both pretty much left centrists, but pretty fairly progressive. He had an unconscious bias, thinking that, every time I would be like, dude, Amber Heard was clearly emotionally and physically abused by this man. And clearly, social media has taken this and made it a circus. They have compromised a lawsuit and they have sabotaged a victim's journey to healing. And every time I basically put that out there, that this dude is a Darvo. This dude is a Darvo. Go on YouTube and look up Johnny Depp is a Darvo. And look up this video that this young woman, she did a lot of amazing research. Maybe she I think that, honestly, I'll be quite honest, she really broke it down way better than I did. She verbalized this in a way that it'll make it very clear for you. But the documentary on Netflix does too. Even though my husband, who was coming from that place of that contrarian place of like, oh, not all men, but at the same time, I kind of understand, like, she seems like she's a liar or whatever. We sat down and we watched the documentary together on Netflix. And at the end, I finally got my husband to admit that he thought that, Amber Heard did not lie. So he basically admitted that he was being swayed from what social media was presenting to him. But when he looked at everything laid out together, he could finally admit, okay, this was internalized misogyny. And it's happening over and over and over again. I saw this other video, where this white woman talks about how white women hate black women because deep down they feel threatened by black women. They feel threatened by their femininity. They feel threatened by them really showing up for their community and their families, and they want to maintain that level of superiority. These are the things that people don't really want to talk about, but it's there. Women's suffrage, to me, honestly, women's suffrage of the 20s, of the early 1920s, late 1910s, early 1920s, honestly, I feel like wouldn't have gotten anywhere if these two groups of feminists, black women on one side, white women on one side, weren't finally, and mostly, I'm not going to say together, able to come together. It was more like where the white side of the gate was finally able to say, okay, your experience is a little bit different from mine, and I got to keep that in account. And they finally came together. And when I say finally, it's not like finally like it was like that. I feel like it took 100 years for black women and white women on two sides of the fence on feminism to say, okay, I see you. Let's make this work. And I feel like that essentially gave birth to the Me Too movement. Now, the Me Too movement, if you see women attacking this, and this is just my opinion, like I said, like my mom says, it's like a booty hole. Everybody got one. But, like, to me, the Me Too movement, the reason it's got such bad press and that there's a bad taste in your mouth left from the Me Too movement has not come or been born from women. It actually came from men who were insecure about the dynamic changing from what has been a patriarchy to shift to something that's seemingly more equal. And as men started to chip away at it more and more and more, then some women started to hear that from their brothers, their dads, their husbands, their friends, and they said, well, maybe me associating myself with Me Too or with feminism will make me seem dogmatic and militant and not feminine or whatever that is. I always teeter on the side of trying to figure out if I'm a feminist or not. I really don't like labels. I don't even like to call myself a Democrat, guys. I would rather just say I'm in the center. I'm in the center left. I have trouble even saying I'm a Democrat, but obviously I'm voting blue. I have trouble saying I'm a feminist, but clearly I really want to speak up for women's suffrage. I want to speak up for women's rights. I want to stop saying feminicide. So, I don't like labels. I don't like labels. So I don't know if I'll ever just say I'm a feminist, but I do believe that, we've lived in a patriarchal world for so long. Women get treated dirty. Black women and women of color get treated way dirtier, and something needs to be done about it. Where that conversation starts is addressing the way that women of all colors, inside of certain races, inside of certain cultural subgroups, across the board, sabotage one another. And you hear people talking about this in certain circles of our friend groups, in our families, online, in social media, even on the news. I've seen news coverage of this, how, it's like women who have made it into middle management, into executive leadership, into government spaces, not always, but sometimes they get there and they feel like they got to kick down every woman who comes in. And that's not even, you know what, let me take that back. That's not even on those big scales. That could also be in our churches, in our masjids, in our homeowner associations. It could be in our Bible studies, in our book clubs. It's all across the board. I see it all the time. Women, old, young, fat, skinny, black, white, Asian, Native American, well, not Native American, probably not so much, Mexican, Hispanic, European, across the board. I feel like Middle Eastern and Native American countries, women should take some note from them, because their women stick together. because they have been through some of the roughest conditions. But I've been seeing this a lot. Long story short to say, where women have the crab and the bucket mentality. If you put crabs in the bucket and they know they are about to become dinner, when one crab almost gets up to the top of the bucket and is near to escaping to freedom, the other crabs will pull that crab back down. And when I think about that act, I think about, the movie Drag Me to Hell. Or I think about that scene in the shows like Supernatural or Charmed or whatever it is, where somebody gets pulled down literally with some evil force or demon into hell, into the underworld. And, in real life, oftentimes those people who get dragged down are innocent people. Just like that crab who is escaping to freedom, you should be happy for that crab. And you should be trying to do what that crab is doing. You should be trying to get up there with that crab. But instead of doing that, crabs pull that other crab back down. And it is the detriment of everyone. So that's what I want to talk about here today. I found an article that sums it up pretty well. It says, from crab basket to long live the sisterhood. This is from Blueys. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right. And first of all, I hope I described that well, but let me just explain what their definition is. And it talks specifically about women here, like I did. It says the crab bucket mentality, also known as crab theory or crab in a bucket effect, refers to the phenomenon of if I can't have it, neither can you. This phenomenon can be seen in the business world, where oftentimes women will unconsciously stop each other from advancing as a way to keep their own heads afloat. So, women are not naturally jealous or vicious. There is a place in hell for women without sisterhood. Stop pulling. Collaboration is the new competition. These are just sort of bullet points in the article. I won't read the whole thing. Sisterhood and empowerment, and a new women's challenge in the real world. So first of all, let's talk about women are not naturally jealous or vicious. When I looked at the Amber Heard trial and I saw how many women were putting Amber Heard down, it became very apparent to me that internalized misogyny has found its place in modern society, and it's here to stay. It is where that small whisper or big whisper even, from men and insecure men who have seen that women are making some advancement in society, as they rightfully should, and they were threatened by that. And so they put these little Easter egg seeds into the ears of their families, their friends, their sisters, their wives, their nieces, their cousins. Ooh, feminism, that seems like not good. Or, oh, that woman over there, she's out to get you. And then women then pass that bad behavior on to other women. And somehow we've adopted that. Now, how does it manifest? It manifests in ways in your circles, and I'm specifically mostly talking to women, because we got to stop doing this. We got to stop gossiping about each other. We got to stop sabotaging each other. We got to stop throwing each other under the bus. We got to stop having this narcissistic behavior of sending our flying monkeys to pull someone down or whatever it is. We need to empower one another, because we already live in a patriarchal society where we make 84 cents on the dollar of every man, and that's across the board for African American women, people of color, women of color, even less. So we really shouldn't be infighting. We should be helping one another. A past generation understood that. Now, women's suffrage, there was major divide going on in the earliest 19th and 20th centuries, among women, especially among the different class and race groups. But at the same time, there was this inherent understanding of women. And I would arguably say a lot of the accomplishments we've made in abolition have been from when women have had that wake up moment and said, I got to help my fellow human being. Look at other women as that. Look at them as a fellow human being. I cannot name how many times in my life that a woman has just helped me you know, in weird ways, whether it was like I just needed someone to give me a smile, like, and I'm having a hard day and I'm on the train and somebody just starts talking to me, it's been in church, it's been in my workplace where somebody has taken me under their wing. It's been and hasn't betrayed me. I've had many people who've taken me under their wing and then betrayed me. um it's that selfless, like, love. We got to have that selfless sisterhood. It's got to be amongst old women and young women. Now, in this day and age, you got a lot of ageism. Like, there is this sentiment between young and old where older women, so many more times than I remember in my childhood and in my young adulthood, that are rampant narcissists who are, I guess, afraid, both afraid of aging, but also sanctimonious in their approach with young women as if they know better, but at the same time threatened and really like envious with the green monster, like a big green monster, deep jealousy, deep seated insecurity, um, and sort of this insidious nature, which I remember the generation of my grandmother, who, God rest her soul in peace. It was, no matter, like, just remembering in my childhood, no matter the class, the race, the socioeconomic background, for the most part, I remember women over 50 were um warm. They exemplified the yin aspect of women: warm, nurturing, inviting. But I feel like women above 50 in this age, at this time in history, um, it seems like they many of them really, really resent and hate younger women, when that shouldn't be the case. They should be passing down lessons learned. And again, I think that comes back from internalized misogyny. If the patriarchy can essentially pit women against one another, have us destroy one another, um, then it's much easier for the world to get away with a bunch of corrupt stuff if we're working against each other and not working with each other. So the jealous, that's, women are not naturally that way. Like, I think just 2 generations back, I think older women were passing down their wisdom to younger women, and I think that generally across the board with younger women, enter, in their peer groups, not necessarily intergenerationally, but the women of the same age within their peer groups, I think we're closer. I think right now, for example, I'm 32, and I feel like women who are around my age right now have social media addiction. I feel like you can't, it's very hard to cultivate friendships, true friendships, the way that I did 10 or 15 years ago in my late teens and my early 20s because of social media. It's become a huge crutch for us. So I think that another way to eliminate this crab in a bucket idea amongst women, part of it is for us to develop a sisterhood. Part of it is for the older women talking to the younger women, not through insecurity or envy or jealousy or hate, but through love and nurture and mentorship. And I think the other part of that is for us to stop living out our relationships over the phone, through chat, through email, through direct message, through FaceTime, through video call, through Zoom, and bring it back to the cafe, bring it back to the movie theater, bring it back to the mall. Put your mask on. I mean, it's okay. I get it. Some of us are scared to get back out there, and there's a new variation going out, and so I get it. But just variant, sorry, new variant of COVID out there. But I get it. I get that. But just go ahead and put your mask on and get your boosters, all of that stuff. Get your vaccines. But you have to continue to cultivate real in person relationships. A place in hell for women without sisterhood. So it says Madeleine Albright, the former U.S. Secretary of State, said it so aptly that there is a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. And it says instead of pulling each other down like crabs do when stuck in a bucket, women should be helping, lifting each other up and out of the basket. In doing so, women will be able to show more solidarity and support to the sisterhood. That's true. And also look at the media landscape. Yo, like right now during the strike, just go buy DVDs. Go buy DVDs because like I just think back to a time where, or watch television. I think back to a time where you had actual favorite movies because we actually purchased DVDs and CDs we were excited about. And they also aired movies over and over and over again on television. We need to go back to that to a certain extent in the same way that we need to go back to reading actual books and not always just reading content on our phones, our devices, our Kindles and stuff, because there is a different experience that comes from those things. It's a more authentic one and a more granular one, and it's one that associates, your likes and your dislikes more closely to what, it's more closely aligned than what is just presented to you through the algorithm, if that makes sense. For instance, I really love the Judd Apatow movies. I love 40-Year-Old Version. I love Super Bad. I can't tell you how many times I watched Super Bad. And although I guess in a way the algorithm did present those things to me because back when Judd Apatow first came out, like his movies were being promoted so much. Like you saw the big movie buffer reels or whatever, the demo reels, the commercials on TV. You saw them at bus stops and everything. But at the same time, it's a reason for that. It's because it aligned to my comedy, my humor style at that time in my life. And I mean, even now, still, even when I watch it now, it's still freaking hilarious. Part of that is because he recognizes diversity and how important it is, its importance. But also just because, those were the type of movies where your interest, at least in my respect, like I actually would want to go and purchase that on DVD. I would want to get the soundtrack. I would want to know what this song was from it. I realized through all of the culture wars that I had stopped listening to a lot of the music that I really enjoyed. A lot of the black artists that I really enjoyed. From new artists today like Drake, I used to listen to Drake all the time. Didn't matter if it was new or old material. And then the culture wars just, I don't know, somehow seeped into, even if you refute that verbally and, in person, that like subconsciously it might seep in there to say like, no, don't pay that any attention. And even back to the older artists, the Aretha Franklins, the Patti LaBelles, Etta James. I used to listen to Etta James so much. So I've been going back and listening to a lot of my old music, looking at a lot of my old movies, because basically what's out there had told me, don't pay attention to this stuff. With saying that, it talks about there's a special place in hell for women without sisterhood. I remember the movie The Traveling Pants of the Sisterhood. I'm sorry, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I remember the movie Mamma Mia and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Okay? And I won't say Mamma Mia was as diverse as Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I think that Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants was more revolutionary in that sense, in the diversity sense. But I definitely just remember watching that movie and being like, yes, we've gotten there. I remember when I was younger, there was a collaboration of Disney Channel stars singing, and it was Raven Simone, it was Hilary Duff, it was the girl from Even Stevens, and I can't remember exactly what the name of the song was, but there was an element representative in there, a theme of really like sisterhood, And we've come so far from that. We've gotten so far, but we also have regressed so much to the point where sisterhood is no longer being reinforced in the media. Culture wars are being reinforced in the media. So I think another part of this, one of my contributions of solutions, is that we need to both seek out media, seek out content, movies, films, music, etc., that promotes that level of sisterhood. So it's like, I guess what I'm saying with that first thing of, jealousy and envy. That's not our nature. We need to get back to sisterhood. It's like in our own groups, in our churches, communities, in our homeowners associations, book clubs, schools, classes, um, jury duty, whatever it is, wherever you are in the office cooler room, we need to promote levels of sisterhood. The next thing would be the outside world. We need to demand media that shows us that we need to be a unified front. We also need to not consume media that puts women down. Stop looking at Amber Heard, destruction videos. It just don't do that. Don't go on there commenting. Oh yes, she's a liar. If you really think that, maybe sit with it, reflect with it some more, keep researching. You don't have to put it out there like that. A lot of these are men, actually, though. There are a lot of these people who pretending to be women on these channels talking about Amber Heard are trolls, but pretending to be women. But anyway, you get what I mean. Like, actually seek out those movies, because what's going to happen is, because right now the equivalence of that music video with Raven Simone, Hilary Duff, the chick from Even Stevens, is not, that's not happening right now. Okay, sisterhood of the, even if some weird sanitized version of that, but really it's just like marketing, is happening right now, the authenticity of it is not happening right now. The sisterhoods of the traveling pants, they're not happening right now. I think back of that movie with Diane Keaton, Rachel McAdams, where the mom has breast cancer. That was such a beautiful movie. Movies like that, they're not really being produced right now, and they're not being, pushed into our sight of view. It's into our what's what I'm saying. It's not being put into our orbit. Something else is being put into our orbit. Something else that really is just driving the cultural divide. I hope that I'm expressing that really well. If someone is getting what I'm saying here, put it down in the comments. If you're getting onto the level that I'm trying to get here or whatever, let me know in the comments. Essentially what I'm just trying to say is, we need to be more demanding about the media and the way it portrays women. Like, think back to the movie with Angela Bassett and Whitney Houston. Good Lord, why can I not think of anything right now? Anyway, you get what I'm saying. We need to get back to, sisterhood needs to be portrayed in the media, and we also need to be demanding that is the type of media that we want to consume. We want to consume media that promotes sisterhood. Boom. And in these comments, in these creepy crawly comments where people are victim blaming, where people are low key being misogynistic, low key being chauvinistic, reinforcing some toxic gender roles, locking women into boxes, or where people are promoting and praising this type of woman eat woman, fish eat fish kind of behavior. Speak up and say something. That right there. What do they say? The only thing that good men need to suffer is to say nothing. When something bad happens, the same thing applies to women. Women need to speak up and have that not be something that is perpetuated in society. The last one here says stop pulling. Oh, I'm sorry, no. It's not the last one. There's a few more. It says stop pulling. So how can we free each other from pulling one another down? We can start by trusting more and distrusting less. Women often talk about gender inequality, but if women want real change, they must first start with themselves. Equality begins with treating each other as equals. This is so true. I have ran into because I work in the corporate space, and I mean, I'm a woman of color, and you don't find that as much as you should, despite, for example, me being American, despite America being 13% black, that means a lot more black people than I have witnessed in corporate spaces should be there. But yet, when I'm in offices, I'm either the only black person within my department of tens and hundreds of people sometimes, Or either I'm a token or I'm one of just one or two, a few, or a handful. And what happens is, it almost every single time, I don't think I've ever walked away from a job or a career where I have been one of the minorities with a friend of my same race. None of these people trying to add me on Facebook. None of these people trying to, go get a beer with me after work sometimes. It's like, no, I can't associate with you because, I got to tear you down. And it's the same way within the office. They take subtle jabs at you. They throw you under the bus. They gossip about you. I have always refused to engage in that type of behavior. But you see what I'm saying? Women do the same thing. Oftentimes, where women are the minority in a group, where they're in a professional setting, and it's a majority male type dynamic, women will pull each other down. And it's time to stop that. It's going to take some generations to really effectuate that to where we stop. Like I feel like in the 60s and the 70s, we had basically gotten there. But since then, so 70s, that would have been what, 50, about 55 years ago? 50 to 55 years ago, the late 60s, early 70s. Since then, it's gone up and then it's gone down. I feel like, between the 70s and the 90s, it probably got to a good place, and now it's gone down, and now it needs to go back up, and that's just how society goes. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. So right now, we're down, and it's time for us to bring it back up. So stop pulling women down, pull them up, and you will pull society up. Collaboration is the new competition. Competing is out. Collaboration is the new normal. We can get out of the crab basket by being aware of our previous behavior and changing it. Let's support women in their opinions and proposals by helping other women. We can expand our network. This not only helps others in succeeding, but also gives us a boost in the right direction. Now, we recently talked about how useless the GOP primary debate, the recent debate, was. And part of that is because, A, they're ignoring the huge orange elephant in the room, and everybody's saying basically they would vote for a criminal to run the presidency out of prison. If it came to that, they would be okay with that, which is absolutely absurd. But at the same time, they're ignoring the issues at hand. They're not looking at what's happening with systemic racism in the United States and offering true solutions to change and move forward. They're not talking about true solutions to work with Democrats the way that if you're going to be in a two-party system, you absolutely have to. Same way that Democrats, we don't always, I say we, I don't love labels. I like to say center-left, but okay, right now, I mean, for all intents and purposes, maybe because it's like, you got to vote blue in 2024. There's no way around it, but the same way that Democrats don't always want to work with Republicans, Democrats got to suck it up because it's a two-party system. Everybody's got to work together. We got to work together. It's the same thing with women. It's the same thing with women. Right now, the MAGA Republican Party does not want to acknowledge that there are two different issues that really need to be addressed and stop being tiptoed around. And if those are addressed and continually addressed, all the difficulties we have around inflation, around education, around climate change, around a whole host of things will help to be resolved. And it's a part of what is interweaved within the American history and the American reality, which is historically America always having wealth concentrated in a small group of people, in some particular individuals, and racism, particularly anti-black racism, but racism of all kinds. And I know people are going to say, but there's other ideological biases and other marginalized people as well. If you can take a look at anti-black racism, the other things you can definitely take a look at too, because that right there is like, it's inherent. It's at the crevice of it. If you can take a look at that with open eyes, compassionate eyes, and do something about it, work to do something about it, not just sweep it under the rug, not pretend it doesn't exist, but actually talk about it and continually advocate for anti-black sentiment to go ahead and get on out of the door, it's not going to be that hard for you to look at how LGBTQ people should be looked at as totally normal human beings, and they should be treated with respect and not slaughtered in the middle of the street. It's going to be easy for you to look at anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic sort of anti-Jewish or anti-Semitic rhetoric. It'll be really easy for you to look at that and say that has no place in modern society. The same way that if we stop tiptoeing around the obvious, and maybe it's gray areas, which I think that very type A people, which I feel like the Republican Party is definitely made up of a lot of type A people, sometimes have a difficulty doing and discerning, the gray areas. They much rather live in black and white. It's gonna be easier. It's the same thing for the struggles of the crabs in the basket mentality for women. If we basically state the obvious, state those truths that are just inherent, men and women, to make sure to say that, hey, if women are doing better in society, everybody's doing better, like, and if we look at history, if you don't know your history, you don't know where you're going. If you look at the patriarchy, you look at how that comes from ancient Greece and ancient Rome, how it has been carried into the Western world. If you look at the way that women have been stoned in history, if you look at the Salem witch trials, if you look at, a lot of different things from a historical context and a patriarchal context, and say, hey, okay, you know what? Women, they pay taxes, so they really have to be considered in society, and their emotions and their needs need to be considered. If more men are fighting for women to be respected in society, to be respected in the workplace, women will also exchange that same love. It's got to come from a place of love and compassion. They're going to exchange that same sentiment among one another, but it can't be so dogmatic, and it can't be like, if I'm to succeed, you have to fail. That's what the GOP is doing right now. It's like, if the GOP is to succeed, it means the Democratic Party has to fail. If white people are to advance, it means that Black, Asian, and Latino people and Muslim people have to be crushed. It doesn't have to be that way. Same thing for genders. We have to say, no, we got to put our foot down. We have to change this for a new generation. So, sisterhood and empowerment. Vernelli Stadmeyer, a career coach from She Consult, believes that in order to build a strong sisterhood, we need to stop gossiping and judging each other. So stop judging, comparing, and don't listen to prejudice. If you choose not to compare yourself to other women, you are not only supporting other women, but also yourself. When you stop comparing yourself, your state of mind will stay positive. Susan Smith, happiness columnist and author, also supports the sisterhood. There is enough for everyone. Others' achievement and qualities, like bestsellers, breakthroughs, or even their happy relationship, are not done at your expense. So enjoy yourself and don't let others' achievement negate all the things you've done. Same thing, it's like we have got to work together. We've got to find a way to work together. And it's got to be from a place of love. We've got the same parts. Why are we thinking in this way that is so rooted in this puritanical tradition of, I control you, you do what I say, I'm going to put you in this little position while I go into the big position? Come back. We are women, okay? We have wombs. We have wombs, quite literally. When you look at, Hindu tradition, Shakti represents the creation of the entire universe. Every woman, no matter who they are, has that spark of creation in them. We are inherent nurturers, okay? We are inherently community-based people. We inherently, and I'm speaking in generalizations, of course this is not everyone, but generally, we want to come from a place of intuition. We want to come from a place of care and concern, okay, of motherhood. Just think about motherhood. What does a mother want to do with their children? She wants to protect them. She wants to keep them sheltered. She wants to keep them warm. The same sense comes from women. Just think about, okay, I'm married, for example. I don't confide everything into my husband at one given time. And I don't confide all of the nuances that I would with my girlfriends. Now, you guys can think of that however you want to, but I know he does the same thing with his guy friends. There are some things, some details that I don't get. You know, they get to me in the time that they need to get to me, if they need to get to me. But I know that some things that maybe, are vulnerable for him, that he doesn't feel comfortable bringing to me because of the masculine experience, because of the feminine experience. He takes those to the people who understand him on that inherent level, on that masculine level, his men friends. And I do the same thing. I go with my girlfriends for a coffee or to the mall or whatever it is, or call them up on the phone, and I can say things that, my husband, it just might either go over his head, or it might just send him in a tailspin, because he doesn't think that way. He doesn't think intuitively and with his emotions. He doesn't think in that way. So we are women, and we're going to have to get back to that. Being equal doesn't mean that we become masculine. It doesn't mean that we abandon our nurturing qualities. We got to stop gossiping. We got to stop throwing each other under the bus. For example, I talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle on this channel. There are so many women who come after Meghan Markle, and you see it's clearly a power grab. You see it's clearly a power grab to grab that attention, grab some clicks, grab some likes, and this woman has talked about how she's faced suicidal thoughts, even where she faced suicidal thoughts when she was pregnant. And she and her husband think that the stress of all of these death threats and smear campaigning caused her to lose her child. She had a miscarriage in the middle of her home, caused her to lose her child. So it's like, at some point, we're going to have to tap back into that womb nature. Like, if you have ever gone to a retreat or any kind of a yoga retreat or a meditation retreat, if you've ever gone to even a Korean spa, for example, where they have hip baths and things like that, if you've ever done a Reiki session, for women, like, I'm really not lying, come out of Western for a little bit and go into Eastern sometimes when you can. A lot of Eastern practices that are to help women get back, if they've got things like stress or anxiety or chronic pain or anything like that. When they go to Eastern, a lot of it is centered around, yeah, I know, but seriously, like, creation. That's creation. Your womb. We feel things deeper. We do. So stop trying to shut that out, and embrace that divine feminine inside of you. It's there. It's there. You can't just ignore it because that's what some incels online or some men's rights sort of insecurity is telling you to do. No. Like, it's something that I get it, perhaps is a symptom of feminism, but I think more than a symptom of feminism, it's a symptom of insecurity and deep-seated patriarchal insecurity that basically saw feminism and Me Too getting popular, and it held it back. It held it back by belittling it and making it feel, how do I want to say, guilty, like, don't feel guilty for being a woman. Be a woman. Be a woman. That's I mean, it's made it feel guilty, and women even have psyched themselves out to making out, and not PC, okay? Again, opinion, like a booty hole, everybody got one. Opinion, not written in stone, but it's my truth. I do stick with that traditional view, even though I'm a progressive person. I consider myself at least fairly progressive. I do think, even though I support the LGBTQ community, and, for a lot of trans people, I really do think they have body dysmorphia and that they just don't feel that they were born into the right body. And that's their thing. I'm not trying to control what anybody does in their bedroom. I'm not trying to control what anybody can legally walk into the hospital and do if they want to do it. I'm not trying to control that. But at the same time, I do think inherently there is a nature to women and men. You know, look at the Bible. Look at marriage between a man and a woman in the Bible. If you can jimmy that relationship, child, you can jimmy just about anything. It is the key, in my opinion, it is the key to peace on earth. It's figuring out that dynamic between divine masculine and divine feminine. And even though I'm Catholic, I will always hold that. It's inherent in me, I think, from deep from Eastern and tribal tradition, deep from my African roots. But we feel it, you know. It's not just Africans, not South Americans, not European. It's generally, it's nature. You know, it's yin and yang. Don't be afraid of that. And it says, new women's challenge in the world. Since 2020, women have been wearing their hearts on their sleeve by sharing the slogan "Women Supporting Women" on Instagram. Women are being called upon to not diminish each other, not to cut each other out of the conversation, and not to undermine each other online. Rather, let's move forward together. Support and inspire each other. That's the goal. This women's challenge started in America, mainly among famous Hollywood stars. However, now there are many Dutch stars who are sharing the message, long live the sisterhood. So this article, there was no date on it, but I get the sense that it was probably from 2021 or something like that. But let's wrap this up and talk about this for a moment. So I just feel like women, you guys have to be ready to enter into the gauntlet, enter into the danger zone, enter into the space that's not 100% PC or easy. You know, it's going to be nuanced. Sometimes it's going to be difficult. Sometimes, you know, oftentimes when people step up and defend the underdog, they defend love, they defend the inherent compassion and love that Jesus Christ, that Prophet Muhammad, that Yahweh, you know, that Buddha calls upon us to have for our sisters and brothers. Oftentimes when people do that, sometimes they get put down, they get thrown under the bus. And that right there will cause a lot of people to become complacent. That right there will cause a lot of people to choose wrong over right, because society, for some weird reason, has gotten to the point where wrong and power hungry and greedy is glorified, and scruples and morals and love and compassion is put down. But people have courage enough to not be silenced and stick up for that. So women have to have courage to not put women down. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but it's so true. I mean, you, woman, I know women of all ages are watching this. I see my demographics. I know that I have older women, younger women, middle-aged women, teenage women. Even out of all of those age groups, I know that you have been at some place within your life, whether at a family function, whether at work, whether in church, whether at the mosque, whether in the grocery store, where gossiping has been happening, others have been gossiping, or you engaged in gossiping with others. I know that all of you have been in an instance where you've been given the choice to either join in attacking and sabotaging somebody, whether just emotionally, but it could also be physically, or you had the option to not, you know. And some of you chose that option to do it because you thought otherwise you'd be diced out, you'd be alienated, or you would lose some certain label or clout or position in your group or your class or your workplace or your family or your friend group, whatever it is. We've all been presented with those choices, but right now it's just happening too often where women are taking the bait to go and put down other women. You have to have the courage to stick up for women. Okay? So on social media, it's like 15 times more important than even in real life. You need to stick up for women in both real life and, you know, on social media, online, whatever it is. You know, it needs to get back to that place where this just isn't happening as often, where people don't feel so compelled and so comfortable to just do weird, shisty, shark stuff, you know. It needs to get back to the place where that's not a common occurrence. You know, that has happened in the past, but with social media, gossiping, snakish behavior, it's it's mutated, it's metastasized, and it's grown out to some sort of whole other level. You know, we can get back to the level where that only happens once in a while, you know. And if we get back to that level where it only happens once in a while, you know, you won't have to speak out as much. I know that it's daunting sometimes to have to speak out, but you have to do it. Don't allow yourselves to be silenced, guys. And don't allow women to put down other women. Men, all people, all genders, all sexual ideology, all gender orientations, they will take notice of that. If women are the leaders in that and saying, don't you put that sister down. Don't you put my sister down. And when I say sister, I don't mean a black woman. I mean every single woman with a uterus, every single woman, you know, whatever. Every single woman, don't you put my sister down. That is my sister, you know. And even if that person is in the wrong, have a little bit of compassion, you know. If they need to be, you know, if it's a situation that's dangerous or emotionally abusive, if they need to go to the police precinct, they need to go to the therapist, whatever it is, okay, that's different. We're not talking about that. But if it's a situation where someone is clearly gossiping, putting someone down, hate speech, whatever that is, and you stand by and do nothing, you will pay the consequences for that, baby. You will pay the consequences for that. Karma, God, it's real. You know, it's real. It comes back to you. It comes back to society. Society bears the wounds of that. It's why women are making 84 cents to the dollar right now, because we aren't helping each other. So, you know, I feel like I could talk until I'm blue in the face to some people, and they would never, ever really get there with me. You know, I feel like those of you who came to this video and you were already there with me, it just reinforced your will and that fire in your loins to go out and to empower women, to mentor, to be a mentee, to you know, advocate for social justice for women, to join your charities, to start your charities, to continue your charity work. I know some of you are already there, you know, and not even on the big scale like charity work, even just in your communities. Like I said, at your worship, your place of worship, at the grocery store, at the family reunion, wherever it is, you know, you're gonna go and you're gonna keep empowering women. I know some of you probably came in here and you had biases already, and you were on the cusp. And this video is going to maybe not completely convert you, but after this, you're gonna go and read some books. You're gonna do some research. You're gonna look into some blogs and all that stuff. But I know specifically for a small group, but still an influential one, you got nothing out of this video. Nothing has changed. You still have hate in your heart for women, other women. And, you know, there is nothing that I can say or do that will persuade these people. For those women, Lord have mercy, let me just pray. The Spirit is just calling me to pray, so that's what I'm going to do. Lord, we come to you today to pray for women, for girls and women, for our next generation of mothers and daughters and sisters, friends and loved ones. Lord, we live in a time, a difficult time. Some of it is of our own doing. Some of it is from wounds of generations past. Some of us have been hurt. Women gossip and target one another and put each other down and keep each other from success, pull the ladder up from behind them. And it's like a wound. It comes from deep historical wounds that have been cured and patched up and closed and reopened and closed and reopened, and now that wound is infected. And some of the women who are perpetrators of this behavior of pulling the ladder up from behind them or kicking other women down, gossiping, of wrongdoing, of snakish behavior, of corruption. Lord, I think that that is not a behavior but a symptom of pain. I look at every single woman who has ever hurt me, and I look at every single woman who has ever hurt another woman, and I've witnessed, and not a single one of those women were happy. Every single one of those women were deeply in pain. And that pain is partly because of individual circumstance, but it's partly ancestral. We carry around a pain of our grandmothers and our great grandmothers and our great 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 grandmothers since past. Lord, I pray that you can heal this wound that's been infected among women. Lord, I pray that you can heal it so that we can join hand in hand, young, old, brown, black, white, Latino, Asian, rich, poor, Native American, fat, skinny, creative, analytical. No matter what the story is, every woman, each woman, I pray that we can join in hand and support one another through sisterhood. Republican, Democrat, Southern, Midwestern, those from the North, from East Coast, West Coast, from around the world. Lord, I pray that we as women can come together to support one another so that we can bring that support, that sisterhood, that inherent deep sisterhood back to the world at large, back to our friends, our brothers, our dads, our husbands, our cousins, our confidants, and even to strangers. That sisterhood will encourage brotherhood, and that brotherhood will come back to encourage sisterhood, and before you know it, there's so much more peace. There's so much more awareness of one another and compassion for one another. I pray for hardened hearts to soften. Soften them, Lord. Circumcise those hearts. Circumcise those hearts for them to love thy neighbors. Whatever you are, any religion you are, I'm going to say in Jesus' name we pray amen, because that's who I'm sending this up to. But I want to emphasize that no matter what your religion, construct this prayer, shift it and change it in the ways that you need for your own needs, your own unique religious and spiritual needs. But please send that love up and those prayers and thoughts up, and those good intentions that should turn into actions to bring women together into sisterhood. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please, again, subscribe. I'm so happy you're here. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for being here. Again, my name is Najwa. Subscribe. hit the bell, hit all the bells so you know whenever I post video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.